Hi and welcome. I hope you're doing really well. So this is the next video in my series on animating your handwriting in Python using pygame. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate the process of recording your own custom font and symbols. Just to note that all of the code that I've written is now available on my GitHub. Link in the description below. So this is the first demo, and we're going to be using the project I've written to choose a font. So I've actually bundled everything together that I was demonstrating in earlier videos into a single project. You can just now import pygame as PG in the normal way. And then with this code that you're seeing here, you can import PyHandwriter, which is the project, as PH, just as a shorthand. And the stuff before that using the path and the sys is just to make sure that it finds the right path to the project. And that will, of course, be dependent on where you put your demonstrations. So what I do is I set up the screen dimensions for my pygame window. I initialize pygame, and then this is just a little trick using the OS module to center your pygame screen. Then I set up my pygame screen in the normal way with set mode, set the caption for that. And so this is the bit using my PyHandwriter project. So this is using the show pygame fonts. You need to pass a screen surface and it returns the fonts that you select. So let's run this and see what happens. So what you see here is the various fonts from pygame. As I'm mousing over these different fonts, the name of the font is appearing in the title of the window, and these are all arranged alphabetically. So Agency FB is the first one, and you can see the different fonts here. You can scroll through that, and any one you click will be added to a list that is returned at the end. So I'm looking for a font to trace. The one that I think will be a good choice is one called Gigi. So I'm just actually jumping through this one, Gigi here. So let's select that one. And just to show that it does return more than one, let's also choose another one. So we'll choose that one, and then we'll quit out. I have printed out the list that was returned, and it's Gigi and Informal Roman. So let's now delete all of this, and I'm going to save this now as second video. So this is YouTube demo 2. Now we're going to record our own font, and we're going to also record some symbols, and we're going to use the recorder class. We're going to instantiate a recorder object using ph.recorder with a capital R, which is the recorder class. We pass to that the screen, and then we're going to run the record font method of that recorder object. And I'm passing to that positional argument, which is needed, which is the name that I want to give this font when it's saved. And I'm going to call that myGG. A keyword argument, which is optional, which is the font that I want to be prompted with. And I'm going to use GG. So let's run that now. Since we're recording a font, it's PyHandwriter record font, and we're actually in trace mode. And what that means is that we're presented with the entire character set that you can type from the keyboard, and they are presented to us one after the other, and we can hold the mouse button down and trace over that to create the animation. And what's happening behind the scenes is that the script is actually recording the position and the timing of your swept out motion and recording that as a so-called path file, which contains all the necessary information to later play it back. So I'm going to sweep over that, and I'm just using the mouse. Actually, that's not great. So I just press the delete button, and I can have another go. And then you basically keep going till you're happy with it, depending on how fussy you are. That looks all right to me. So I can save that by pressing the S button, and it will automatically move me on to the next letter. You can toggle whether you want to actually trace it or just be prompted by it. So by pressing Alt, the prompt character moves outside the box. I want to trace, I'm going to press Alt again, and that'll toggle it back in. And the other thing you can do is you can set a smoothing level. So I've built in some on-the-fly smoothing. The default smoothing level is 0, so that will record all your wobbles. So let me just show you out here. So if I do a very wobbly line here, which I've just recorded, you can see all of those wobbles have been captured. So let me delete that. And now if I change the smoothing level to, let's say, 5, you can see here it's changed here to 5. If I do a very wobbly line, even though I was wobbling the cursor a lot, you can see it's made quite a smooth curve, and that can be quite useful, particularly if you're not using the ideal input device like a mouse. So I'm going to delete that. Actually, let me reduce it to 3. I'm going to go up here, around, and then curl around like that. It's actually not too bad. Another thing you can do is you can just preview what you've done by pressing the space bar. And you can see here, this is now a preview of what I've just traced. It's pretty much the same timing as the way it was recorded, but when you subsequently handwrite it, you can change that speed to whatever you want. So you can make it much faster or much slower. So I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to press save. And I'm just now going to crack on recording the rest of the alphabet, and I'll get back to you when I've finished. Okay, so that was the process for recording an entire font. We're going to change this to record symbols. So let's now run that. So I decided to do a couple of Greek characters. So I'm going to start with the Greek letter alpha. Yep, happy with that. So let's just replay it. So now I want to save it. So I press S for save, and I'm going to be prompted for a file name. And so a logical name would be alpha. Because I've practiced this before, that file already exists. So do I want to overwrite it? Yes. Let's now do beta. And I thought I would also do a heart. And finally, I'm going to do some musical notes. So I'm going to close that. Demo 3. So we're saying HW equals an instance of this handwriter class. We pass it the screen and we tell it which font we want to use. And then that will now take the raw text that we give it and animate it. So here's the text that we want to be animated. So a couple of things to note is that I'm using the R for raw text here because we want to be able to embed in this text some escape characters like \n and \t, and these are recognized by my script to do a new line or a tab. The way the pre-recorded symbols are introduced is using backticks. The method to actually animate the text is write_text. We pass to that the text, which is this string here. We tell it the point size that we want, and in this case we're going to speed it up a bit, so the speed multiplier is 2.5 times the record speed, and we're going to use a slightly larger line width than the default. So let's run this and see how we go. If you go to your console and you go help hw.write_text, you will get lots of other keyword arguments that you can play around with. Just to show you a few of those features, let's jazz this up a little bit. I'm actually going to delete this line here. We just set up a border parameter, then we set up a pygame rect, which is a smaller rectangle inset by that border width on all sides. Calling the write text method again, passing the text as before, point size as before, the speed multiplier as before. But now we're going to change the cursor to a quill. So there's a few predefined cursors, and of course you can create your own and use those. I'm going to scale that cursor up by 2 times. And I'm also going to put a little bit of a calligraphy take on this by passing a nib dictionary, which is a width and an angle for the stroke of the line that we're using. And we're going to now color the line. We're passing the text rect, which is where we want the animated text to be written. We're giving also some colors to the background surface, which is in this case the screen. the actual box color that we want the text to be written within and the border for that. Okay, YouTube demo 4. What I'm doing here is I'm writing that text, I'm making this really big, which I think looks good for a graffiti effect. I'm slowing this down a little bit. You tend to write a bit more slowly when you're doing graffiti, unless of course you see the police coming. For the cursor, I'm using the built-in spray can cursor. There's a dictionary keyword argument that defines the spray. And so you define the width of the spray, the color of the spray, the aspect ratio, and the angle of that. So we'll run that. Let me close that. This is demo number 5, which I've already saved. Here it is. And I'm going to write a message on the screen. And my challenge is, can you work out what the symbol that's rendered in yellow is? And if you can, please add a comment below and I'll give a shout out to the first person who correctly identifies this. So let's run this. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did or found it interesting, please give me a thumbs up and think about subscribing. I've got a lot more content in the pipeline. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, bye.